G'day, welcome to Frog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show. This is a show that is dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're back today for my favorite albums from 1975, day 26, album 26, February the 26th. And we're talking about one of my favorite albums, Rush's Caress of Steel. Okay, about this album, when I first got it, it was probably sometime in the early 80s. It was the first time I actually heard it. And it took a while for it to grow on me. I mean, I liked Bastille Day right away, and then Lakeside Park, which is probably my favorite Rush song, maybe my favorite song, period, is on this album as well. So I have a real attachment to this album, and some of the other tracks have really, over the years, grown on me quite a bit. But before we get too far into it, let's talk about its stats. So September 24th, 1975 was its release date. Recorded in Toronto Sound Studio in Toronto, of course. It's about 45 minutes long, which is a fairly lengthy album for the time period, but it's progressive, so not too abnormal. Pushed the boundaries of the album, I'm sure. On the Mercury label in the States and the Anthem label in Canada. This is actually, just want to make sure. Yeah, it doesn't say on here. That's weird. It's on the Anthem label. This is a Canadian one. Anthem label by Terry Brown, of course, and Rush. So for those of you who follow Rush, you know that Terry Brown produced most of the early stuff right up, well, he produced all the early stuff right up to Signals, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think it's up to Signals. And then they kind of moved on to something else. But anyways, just going to go, actually I don't need it anymore, I'm just going to shut her down. Okay, so the album features, of course, Geddy Lee on bass, lead vocals, and bass Taurus pedals, and also I think there is a tiny bit of synthesizer in here somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember where I heard it, but I think there is some in here. Might be on the Necromancer. Anyways, you have Alex Lifeson, all guitars, lead, acoustic, classical, 6 and 12 string guitars, all of that stuff. And of course Neil Peart on drums and percussion. So all the lyrics on this album, I think, are pretty much all written by Neil Peart. I want to say that's the case. Maybe, I think I'm going bald, that might have been written by Leah Lifeson. I don't. Yeah, this is really small writing. God, I don't know how they expect anybody to read that. Anyway, that doesn't really matter. It's the three main guys in Rush, which everybody knows who they are. I think this is an underrated album for Rush. I don't like to use that term. Maybe underappreciated album is probably the thing. Certainly not appreciated by the masses. This is an album pretty much loved by the members, or not the members, the fan base for Rush, people who are Rush fanatics. I don't know if I fall into the Rush fanatics. I certainly am a Rush fan. I have all of their albums. I've followed them since I was about 13, although a little bit sporadic until I was in probably around my 15 or 16 years of age. Then I fell in love with them, and it's been that way pretty much since. The big track, opening track here, Bastille Day, is a classic. They've used it for opening quite a bit. It's a great kind of riffy song with a real interesting guitar riff, and I think Geddy Lee sings this song so well. I'm a huge Geddy Lee singing fan. I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's mine. I like his voice a lot. Then we get to the Think I'm Going Bald, which is kind of a bit of a filler track. In actual fact, I think it was put on this album as a kind of a joke towards Gene Simmons's I Think I'm Going Blind on the Kiss album on Hotter Than Hell. So yeah, I think it was a kind of joke song for the album. And you got to have that lightness. And then of course Lakeside Park, which is my favorite tune by Rush, mostly because I relate to Port Dalhousie and where Neil Peart grew up, and the song just talks about that park so much and just reminds me of it every time I hear it, and I really love it. I think it's such a catchy tune. Then we get to the Necromancer, which is the last track on side A, a deep and brooding, heavy song with lots of storyline that of course relates to the Toronto city skyline and the Willowdale and the Don River Valley, which goes down between the two, all the way up from Willowdale all the way down into Toronto. Yeah, so I'm attached to that song, but I really like the guitar parts in that as well. And then you have the Fountain of Lamath, which is to me a masterpiece. It's probably my favorite long song by Rush. When I say long, I mean epic, like side-long track. I know most people prefer 2112, even a few people prefer Hemispheres, but this is my track. I love it. In the Valley, great tune. The drum part and dictacs and arpeds. One at the bridge. No One at the Bridge. I like the kind of melancholy feel to that song. Panacea is that kind of song where everybody's just kind of laid back and kind of drinking and having a party and going through life and everything's smooth and good. And then you have Bacchus Plateau, which is really great. And then finally The Fountain, which is the final track on the album, final part in The Fountain of Lamath, or Lamneth if you prefer. I think most people prefer Lamneth. I call it Lamath, it doesn't matter. Anyways, it's almost 20 minutes in length. It's a classic song for me, and I like the album cover, which shows the Necromancer watching over the land, and it's shrouded in mist and darkness. The whole album is pretty dark, I think, for a Rush album, and I like it. It's always been one of my favorite Rush albums. It still is in my top 5 Rush albums, probably always will be, and I don't seem to be able to get it into the thing sleeve right. Anyways, a great and classic rock album. It's my 3rd favorite of 1975. Shouldn't have come as any surprise. The next 2 are not going to be a big surprise either, but this one, really good. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. How do you feel about Caress of Steel? How does that fit in your Rush discography? Are you a Rush fan at all? If you are. I'm a huge Rush fan. They're my favorite band. It's not even really close, to be honest with you. Anyways, I hope that you have a good evening, and this video will come out tomorrow on day 26. Take care. Bye.